In this video, we'll be discussing how to compare historical sources. In simple terms, that means identifying similarities and differences. You'll need to identify at least one of each in order to get full marks. So, let's look at an example question. Compare what sources A and B say about King Henry's relationship with France. Source A. Henry had a carnival with the King of France, the field of the cloth of gold, with gold cloth tents and wine flowing from all the fountains. Source B. Henry led an army to France to try and capture the French crown. This failed, and he wasted lots of money on these wars. So, quite often, when you get different historical sources, the first thing to do is to try and make sense of them. And in simple terms, we could say that source A is quite positive. It talks about a carnival and a positive relationship between the King of France and the King of England, Henry, whereas source B is much more negative. Let's have a look at what a good answer might look like, but before we do, what is your teacher expecting? Here's the success criteria. You've identified at least one similarity and at least one difference between the sources, and you've used quotes from both sources to support both of your points. A good answer might look like this. Sources A and B disagree about whether Henry and the French king had a positive relationship. Source A suggests they were friends because it says Henry had a carnival with the King of France. But source B says the opposite. Henry led an army to capture the French crown. Source B suggests they were enemies, which is very different to source A. The sources do agree, though, that Henry's relationship with France cost him a lot of money. Source B definitely says this when it states he wasted a lot of money on these wars. Source A also suggests Henry spent a lot of money in France, even when he was friendly with the French king. For example, source A says the tents were made of gold cloth and the fountains all ran with wine. In summary, the sources largely disagree about the nature of Henry's relationship with France. So why is this a good answer? Well, firstly, it's identified one key difference between the sources. It also identifies a key similarity. You don't need to do that in any particular order, but you can see that the answer is structured into clear paragraphs. So if we think about the first paragraph, the difference is identified, and then there's quotes from sources A and B to develop and explain that point in detail. The second paragraph is exactly the same, a point followed by small quotes from both sources to help explain that idea. And there's also a final sentence, not a full conclusion, that gives an overall judgment about how similar or how different the sources are. There you are. That's how you compare sources in history. There is no knowledge needed. And if you're structuring your answer correctly, then you'll be doing this skill. Good luck.